afternoon. My name is AJ Scipio, and this evening we're going to talk about ADHD. How many of you know people with ADHD?
Me!
Okay. How many of those people you know with ADHD are adults? Not as many. Well, what we're going to discuss today is the fact that untreated ADHD is much more devastating in adults than it is in children. We're going to look at what those symptoms are of untreated ADHD in adults and the symptoms of untreated ADHD in children, and then make a real-world comparison. ADHD, it's not just for kids. In your handouts, if you'll refer to handout number 2, we find the symptoms of untreated ADHD in children. You see that we have children that are often very unruly, behavior problems. We see this little boy behaving in a fashion that all of us would agree is inappropriate for a child of any age. We also see that academically speaking, they don't often perform up to grade level or up to par or what is expected in their academic performances. We also see a child here who has been ostracized. All of the other kids are running and playing, and this little girl seems to be off by herself. A lot of kids that have ADHD are ostracized by their peers because of their behavior, because they're different, because they have to stay in from recess to finish work that they didn't do earlier. But let's look at untreated ADHD in adults. Many adults with untreated ADHD have multiple marriages, failed marriages, they have separations, they have issues dealing with their children. Those relationship issues often transfer right onto the job. They underestimate the amount of time that it's going to take to complete a task. Therefore, they miss deadlines. That puts pressure on everybody else. Then everybody else has to make up the difference. So now we have another breakdown in relationship and communication. We have financial devastation because bills aren't being paid on time. Money's being spent frivolously and then count the cost later. Well, once we look at this and we see, okay, kids, home, school, we see adults, relationships, jobs, finances. How far do these effects actually reach? With children, just like this campfire, fire is hot and fire can be very dangerous. But as you see in your handout, this fire is contained, just like the effects of ADHD in children. It's primarily at home, primarily at school, or in limited social settings. But when you look at ADHD that's untreated in adults, it's like a wildfire. You don't often know where it started, and there's no telling how far out it's going to reach. It becomes devastating. When we go back to our example on the job, then we have those adults now have to stay late for work. So now the child care providers are taking care of kids later. Their families are suffering, and the ripples just continue to go out, out, and out. So as we can see, adults with untreated ADHD, the effects are far more devastating than they are in children. What do we do when we find or we feel that ADHD is something we need to look at? We face it head on, get information so that we can begin to identify the symptoms. Once we identify the symptoms, we press forward for diagnosis. You want to find medical professionals who are skilled and experienced in dealing with ADHD for diagnosis. They're the ones that can recommend the best treatment plan for you. Once you begin your treatment plan, you want to gain support and you want to give support. While ADHD in adults is much more devastating than ADHD is in children, both can be treated and should be treated and approached with courage, approached with information, diagnosis, treatment plan, and support. You will achieve success if you follow those protocols. Do we have any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
What causes ADHD in adults?
ADHD in adults starts as ADHD in children. Scientists and researchers and doctors have no actual root cause for ADHD. Research has told us that it is thought to be a neurological disorder that is often hereditary, runs in families, parents pass it down to their children. People that have traumatic brain injuries are often at higher risk for developing ADHD because of the neurological connection, as well as children of parents who abuse drugs and or alcohol during pregnancy. So there's really not a specific cause, but there are many things that can lend itself to developing ADHD as a child. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, is it easier to diagnose ADHD in adults or children?
It's much easier to diagnose in children. Why? Because more research has been done on ADHD with children because it was originally thought to only affect children. Only in recent years have they begun to study ADHD in adults and the comorbidities or the other issues that can compound a diagnosis and make diagnosis a little more difficult. With adults, they've had a whole lifetime to begin to deal with working it out on their own. So dealing with it with kids is much, much easier than dealing with it or diagnosing it in adults. Did that answer your question?
It certainly did.
Thank you all so much. You've been a great audience.